Dave Roberts is not a Manager of the Year finalist. Some of you may agree with that, but I don't think some of us do. We'll talk about that. Clayton Kershaw is going to go undergo surgery. What does that mean for 2024? What does that mean for Kershaw? What does that mean for the Dodgers? We got an answer on qualifying offers, and there are some managerial moves in MLB. So we'll get into all that. So let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. And if you subscribe, you get notified every time our episode is ready to go, which is usually every Monday through Friday at some point in the morning. And if you want to become an everydayer, that is simple. All you have to do is watch or listen every day, and boom, you are an everydayer. It's that easy. If this is your first time listening, watching, I'm Vince Samperio, joined by Jeff Snider, co-host Jeff Snider, and we're both lifelong Dodger fans. We've both watched a lot of Dodger games in our lives. We both are, I guess, in a way, consumed by Dodgers and Dodgers news and rumors and thoughts and knowledge, and we're trying to share some of that with you guys as rational and as knowledgeable as we can. And we're here to do some of that today. But yeah, Jeff, you held it down yesterday, and we saved some of the bigger news from over the weekend for both of us to talk about it. So before we get into that, though, is there anything else you have to add?
No, yeah, I guess, the second segment we're going to talk about my false advertising yesterday. I ended the episode by saying we'd be talking about Dave Roberts being a finalist for Manager of the Year. And spoiler alert, I lied, but it ain't my fault.
Yeah. Technically, it's not your fault. You went with what you thought, and what you thought was not what everyone else that voted for the award thought. But we'll get into that. First off, Clayton Kershaw announced on his Instagram that he underwent already, right? Underwent surgery for a shoulder issue and would hope to return to pitch in the summer of 2024. By everything I've seen, I don't anticipate a return in 2024, but again, I'm not a doctor and I'm not Clayton Kershaw, and maybe he knows better, or maybe you think it's a sense of giving some hope to people, or does he legitimately think that, or does he know more than we do?
Yeah, I saw one person speculating that it was going to be at least 9 to 12 months of recovery. But I saw somebody else who said 6 months before he could start a throwing program. 6 months to a throwing program would put him, at, returning around the All-Star break. And my guess would be that he is hoping to return at midseason. And if he doesn't, I think he won't return at all. I think if the recovery isn't, like, it wouldn't shock me at all to have Kershaw hold a press conference during spring training or, April or something, saying, I had hoped to return to pitch, but the recovery is going slower than I expected, and it's time for me to hang it up. I hope that's not the case, obviously, and I don't necessarily think it's the case, but it wouldn't shock me. So I do think he is targeting midseason, and I think if he doesn't hit that target, we've maybe, unfortunately, the day he walked off the mound after getting demolished by the Diamondbacks in the playoffs might have been his last pitches he'll ever throw in the big leagues.
Yeah. So what he put is he underwent a surgical procedure to repair the glenohumeral ligaments and capsule of his left shoulder. So if you are a doctor and you listen to this, and maybe you have better insight, but again, I don't think I'd be shocked if what you just said occurred, but I would be surprised if that's the way Kershaw went out. Like, if even if it took him till 2025 to come back, I think he would have to come back and throw at least one more time in the major leagues. Like just the way it ended for him and everything else. And, Kershaw's not somebody that would come back just for one start. So that, I can understand that sentiment. But with all the humbleness and everything, humility and everything else that he has, unless it was okay, I'm not going to be able to throw another year. Like, shoulder injuries can take longer than a year, depending on what it is. Julio took a little bit over, a year to get back when he had shoulder surgery. Not to bring his name up, but just as someone who had shoulder surgery, or Hyun-Jin Ryu, I guess, would be a better example. But yeah, it's hard for me to see him going out that way. But again, it's not entirely up to him if it's going to be longer than a year, and he just, doesn't feel like that's good enough for him.
Yeah, every pitcher is different, every injury is different, every surgery is different. And so, you have to assume if he is saying midseason that that's what Dr. Elatrash, that kind of laid out for him as a reasonable expectation. And maybe it's an optimistic or an aggressive expectation, kind of like Walker Buehler hoping to return in 2023 from Tommy John surgery, and then it ultimately not being the right decision for him and for the team. The difference is Kershaw, if he, well, we've talked about, I think 2024 is his last year. If he does come back, I think that that'll be it for him. And so he doesn't need to worry as much about the future as Buehler does. It would have been foolish for Buehler to rush back and risk re-injuring the arm or whatever, or, uh, sacrificing his future to get back in 2023. Kershaw, I mean, obviously he wants to be able to use his arm in the future, but he doesn't have a lengthy career to think about like Buehler does. And so he may be more willing and able to take the aggressive route of coming back as soon as possible, knowing, look, I just need 56 strikeouts and then I can be done, and really that means 10 starts. If he can get 10 or 12 starts next year, then he can get to 3,000 strikeouts and call it a career. And obviously, he'd love to come back strong enough to be healthy in October and actually help the Dodgers win another World Series title. And if he's healthy, that would be great. The big issue in this past October was that Kershaw wasn't healthy, so who knows what he's going to look like when he does return. But I'm gonna, until we hear otherwise, I'm going to remain optimistic and hopeful that he'll be back around midseason, and get those 12 starts or whatever that he needs, and then whatever on top of that is just gravy for me. But yeah, there is a little nagging, pessimistic side of me whispering in my ear that it might not go that way for him, and it was ultimately a shoulder injury that took down Oral Hershiser. It was ultimately a shoulder injury that took down Fernando. Like shoulders, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on a podcast, and I'll tell you, a shoulder is an important part of pitching. Hashtag science.
Yeah. The other part of all this, we're speaking in the sense that he's with the Dodgers, is that he is a free agent. And if he did want to, get the rehab through the Dodgers or any other team, I guess for that matter, he would have to sign with them. A team would have to, invest some money into it. I could see, for the Dodgers' sake, like a 2-year, whatever, 10, 15, $20 million deal, and where he gets to rehab. Like, I guess it would depend on what he ultimately believes. Like, if he saying, I'm coming back regardless, even if it takes me 2 years, then, a 2-year, whatever, however many million would make sense. If he's just coming back for this year, it's a little bit, I guess, tougher. Like, does he take anything under 10? Like, as a, would he give the Dodgers that much of a discount? Like, I know obviously he would want to, but also as someone who, players union and everything else, is that something that would be feasible? Like, hey, I'm gonna sign a 1 year. I guess incentive laden could be the way they get out of that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If they just go with incentives based on number of starts, you get base salary of $4 million and then $1 million for each start you make. So if he makes those 12 starts, you get 16 million bucks, and I think everybody's happy with that. And whatever the numbers are, I think they could work that out. But they could also just sign him. It's just money.
Yeah.
Says the guy whose money it's not.
Yeah. So it's something definitely to monitor as the offseason goes. I don't expect us to hear word. I'm assuming Kershaw's not throwing until the earliest would be even spring training to pick up a baseball. So there's a time for him to decide what he wants to do or how the Dodgers want to do it or whatever the case is. So we'll see how it goes. But as you alluded to earlier, Dave Roberts, Manager of the Year voting, he was not a finalist. If you had bet that with FanDuel, you would have been out of money. But there's other stuff to do with FanDuel. So let's get into that and then get into some Roberts talk. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. What's a moneyline bet? Moneyline bet is basically just picking the winner of the game. So for last night's Monday Night Football game, if you had just picked the Chargers to win and you put at least $5 on it, you would have got $150 in bonus bets to go towards a bunch of stuff. And bonus bets are, it's not just something to get you to keep betting. It is, but it's also something that you can win legitimate money off of. If you follow any of the betting accounts that are out there in the world, people use bonus bets to win big prizes all the time. So go check out FanDuel right now and get $150 if your teams win on any $5 money line bet. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. So go check it out right now. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. $150 in bonus bets after winning any $5 moneyline bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Make sure to subscribe and listen and watch every day to Locked On Dodgers. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. And remember, SiriusXM or the SXM app can help you with baseball year round. Not obviously you can't listen to games right now, but you can listen to baseball talk, and some of the baseball talk that might occur on there and is definitely going to occur right now has to do with the award season. The award finalists for all the major awards were announced yesterday. In the National League, the Dodgers had a few. They had Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman both named as MVP finalists. They had James Outman named as a Rookie of the Year finalist. And then they had nobody named as Manager of the Year finalist, as the National League had Craig Counsell, Skip Schumacher, and Bryce Snitker. I guess we can talk real quick about Mookie and Freddie. They're listed in alphabetical order: Acuna, Betts, Freeman, and I'm pretty sure that's how they're going to go in regular order, right, Jeff?
Yeah. Really the only question I think at this point was, would Freddie Freeman be a finalist, meaning that he had beat out Matt Olson for third place? Acuna is going to win the MVP. I think it's probably the right decision. I think he deserves it. I would have voted Mookie, like we talked about, with a month left in the season. After August, I would have voted Mookie. But then Acuna had a great September and Mookie had a lousy September. And unfortunately, that counts too. I guess there's an outside shot if somebody really wanted to be contrarian, that Freddie could finish ahead of Mookie. I don't think that's the case, especially because of what we noticed on Twitter, the tweet that Jeff Passan deleted. It seems like he might have the actual winners, because as I explained the other day, these finalists, it's not like a true finalist where here are the people who are eligible, now vote for him. This is the top 3 vote getters. And for the most part, like you mentioned, NL MVP, they're listed in alphabetical order, but not all of them are. And it does look like the winner is probably, who knows with Manager of the Year, as we're going to talk about in a minute, there's no rhyme or reason to voting for Manager of the Year. But if we're looking at the other ones, MVP, Cy Young, and Rookie of the Year, the winners are listed first, all in all 6 of those cases. And only in, I think Acuna, Betts, Freeman might be the only one that's entirely, I guess AL Cy Young is in alphabetical order. But they're not in alphabetical order necessarily. And so it looks like Acuna is going to win, Betts is going to finish second, and Freeman's going to finish third, which is kind of what we would expect. And so, that's pretty cool for the Dodgers. Obviously, it doesn't make up for the frustrating October, but these are regular season awards, and having Mookie and Freddie finish second and third is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and then when it goes to Rookie of the Year, Outman being there is good. Like he wasn't it's one of those things, Dodgers development. He wasn't a top pick. He, didn't come in with a bunch of fanfare. The other one, he's up there like Corbin Carroll. Corbin Carroll was, expected to be this good. He was an MVP candidate for the first part of the season. And Kodai Senga is a little bit, one of those different types of rookies, came over from a foreign league and, is still technically a rookie, even though he's played professional baseball at the highest level in that country for a while. So, shout out to Outman. But yeah, I guess the floor is yours now for Manager of the Year, because you had already penciled it. You've had Dave Roberts penciled in as a finalist and or winner for this award, and he's not going to finish top 3.
Yeah, for me, the only question was, would he win it? It never even crossed my mind. Yesterday, when I was finishing the episode, it never even crossed my mind that Roberts wouldn't even be a finalist. And, one of the things that I hate about award season and Hall of Fame talk and everything is that it ends up being criticisms of other people. And I'm not going to criticize Craig Counsell or Skip Schumacher or Brian Snitker. I think they're all good managers. But I think the fact is the Dodgers were projected to win 92 games this year. And that was before losing Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin to Tommy John surgery and Julio Urias to domestic violence charges and everybody else. The Dodgers had so many injuries this year, especially to their pitching. They used 17, 18 rookies this year. And the Padres were supposed to win the division. And yet the Dodgers ran away with the division again. They won the division by 16 games, which is almost as many as they won it by the year before when they won 111 games. They ran away with the NL West despite being projected to win 92 games and then having a ton of injuries. This was easily Dave Roberts' best year as a manager. Really showed why he is such a great manager. And again, these are regular season awards. If you're typing your comment right now about how he sucks in the postseason, that's a different conversation that even if it were true, it's irrelevant to this conversation because these votes were cast the day after the regular season ended, before any postseason games have been played. And Dave Roberts was the best regular season manager in the National League this year. And part of me thinks they shouldn't have a Manager of the Year award because I do think that managers get too much credit for wins and too much blame for losses. I think for the most part, it's the players. But to the extent that a manager does play a role, I think helping guide a team through all those injuries, helping guide a team through so many rookies playing and all those things, and overcoming and beating expectations, even when it's the 11th year of dominance in a row, and still finding a way to exceed expectations. Like Brian Snitker, I'm not going to criticize Brian Snitker, but you look at what the Braves were expected to do and what the Braves did. Brian Snitker doesn't belong in the top 3 of Manager of the Year voting. Craig Counsell, yeah, he deserves to be in the top 3 for sure. The Brewers had a lot of adversity too, and they had a solid season, but they weren't as good as the Dodgers, and they were, they didn't overcome as much as the Dodgers did. Skip Schumacher of the Marlins, yeah, the Marlins had a much better season than people expected. The 3 finalists should be Dave Roberts and Craig Counsell and Skip Schumacher. Maybe you can make a case for Torey Lovullo too. I did see a lot of people were upset that Lovullo isn't a finalist, and those people don't realize that these votes are cast based on the regular season. And Torey Lovullo led the Diamondbacks to 84 wins, and so it's not that impressive. But yeah, the fact that Dave Roberts isn't even in the top 3 is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, and it might be just a matter of, people expect, regardless of how things went, voters might just say, hey, they're the Dodgers.
It's Dodgers fatigue for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, at the end of the day, he's won the award before. So he has one. And it is interesting in the sense of Craig Counsell, because the big news on Monday was Craig Counsell, who had been linked to the Mets, had interviewed with the Guardians, who was deciding whether he wanted to stay with the Brewers. Didn't do any of that. He went to the Cubs, and the Cubs already had a manager, or they have a manager at the time. They had one after the fact. And then, the Mets hired the bench coach from the Yankees, Mendoza, and then you had the Guardians hire Stephen Vogt, former MLB catcher, and then now David Ross is out there, so now he's been linked to the Padres and even the Brewers now that that's available. So all that stuff that happened, I am glad the Dodgers already have a manager.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, if the Dodgers were going to part ways with Dave Roberts, Craig Counsell would be a guy who I wouldn't mind replacing him. But Dodgers aren't doing anything with Dave Roberts, and Craig Counsell is now off the market. And yeah, it would be kind of funny if David Ross ended up with the Brewers and then beat the Cubs in the division. And but yeah, that's some weird stuff. You mentioned the Mets manager that did take one of the guys the Padres are pretending to consider off the board. And so they're down to probably 3 candidates, just one of the 2 guys they're going to hire, and then Benji Gill as their guy who they're pretending they're still considering. It's going to be either I can't remember either of their names.
Ross got thrown into that mix too.
Yeah, so
I don't know. Anyway. I don't know if you saw the report in real time for Rosenthal about Counsell going to a team that already had a manager. But if you did, what percent of you was thinking, could that be the Dodgers?
I mean, the thought crossed my mind, but I never gave it any serious thought. I started thinking, but like for me, Dave Roberts is not on the hot seat, and Craig Counsell, like that's just not the Dodgers way of doing things. It just,
I mean, they lost to the same team, so it would have been kind of funny.
Yeah. I didn't seriously consider it. I did, I thought, well, Cubs, like the Cubs didn't really cross my mind either. As I started to try to think about it, I'm like, who's going to get canned? And, it didn't make much sense for any team. And so when it was the Cubs, like that was weird to me, but no more surprising than any other team would have been, I guess.
Yeah. So, all right. The qualifying offer deadline was yesterday as well. We have answers on that. And then we'll talk about Max Muncy and how much he loves LA. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Make sure to be coming every day or by listening or watching to Locked On Dodgers every day. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All right, Jeff. We talked about the qualifying offers for a whole segment last week. Probably won't take that long this week, but maybe no surprise to us because it's basically what we thought. The Dodgers did not extend the qualifying offer to either JD Martinez or Clayton Kershaw. But no surprise, right?
Yeah, no surprise. We did kick around the possibility of them offering JD Martinez. And like I said, then it wouldn't have shocked me if they had, but ultimately I don't think the risk of him accepting the offer was worth the reward of the draft pick that will come when somebody else signs him. So yeah, it wasn't surprising. And, just out of respect to him, man, like obviously it's not the same as Kershaw, but it is easier to get a job. And when you're a guy like JD Martinez, who's not going to be like Shohei Ohtani was a no-brainer for the Angels to offer a qualifying offer to, because whoever's getting Ohtani, the draft pick is the least of their concerns. But if you're signing JD Martinez to a 2 or 3 year deal, it's like, the draft pick compensation really would be a big part of that consideration. And so I think probably some of this was respect for JD. It's like, well, we don't want to hurt his chances of getting a job just because we're going to go after Shohei Ohtani. So I think it was a combination of those things.
Yeah, there was 7 players that ended up getting the qualifying offer. Ohtani, Bellinger, Blake Snell, Aaron Nola, Josh Hader, Matt Chapman, Sonny Gray. Again, we talked about it. It's $20.325 million for next season. Players have till November 14th to accept it. So I can't see any of those guys accepting other than maybe Sonny Gray, but even then, pitching is pretty premium where he's going to get more than 20 mil on open market. So
Yeah, and the first several years of this qualifying offer system, nobody ever accepted it. The last 5 or 6 years, it's become more common for guys to sometimes accept the qualifying offer. But the fact that when nobody was accepting it, that probably meant, okay, we haven't quite honed in the system quite as well as we need to. Now that some people do actually accept it, the qualifying offer system has its flaws, but the fact is the downside is if you do accept the qualifying offer, you get 20 million bucks next year, and I think that's a downside that a lot of us would sign up for pretty quickly.
yeah, qualifying offers to help the small market teams, and the small market Padres have 2 guys on there, so
Yep.
yeah, props to them. All right, we'll finish up talking about Max Muncy. He was on the Foul Territory show and basically talking about his deal with the Dodgers, and he said that the deal was under market value. He understands that he wanted the security of being in LA. He said they probably would have picked up my option for 2024 anyways, but he wanted that security of being in LA, that his family's used to it, he's used to it. Gives credit to the Dodgers for helping him refine his love for baseball back when they brought him on, and obviously it was coincided with the swing change on his end a little bit, but it just kind of goes to show the culture and everything that the Dodgers have right now. We've seen guys take even Chris Taylor. Maybe now the deal doesn't look as much undervalued, but when he first signed, it might have been a little bit undervalued at the time. And other guys have done that. Max Muncy's done it a couple of times now, where he's taking deals probably under his value in order to remain with the Dodgers. And just a testament to what they've built. And on the flip side, anything can happen in this game. But I talked about it a little bit last week, where for people that thinking, oh, Max Muncy's going to get traded. Maybe they wanted to keep him around, but also have him as a trade option. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. And for Muncy, we talked last week about how he's a different kind of guy, like because of where he's come from, of like you said, almost out of baseball. Like he got released by the A's and spent an entire year in 2017 in AAA with the Dodgers. Like in 2017, which wasn't that long ago, Max Muncy didn't know if he would ever make it in the big leagues. He at that point had made maybe $100,000 in baseball. And even like after 2019, Muncy had still made a total of like maybe $1 million in the big leagues. And $1 million is a lot of money. But when you're talking about a guy who's 28 years old and all he knows is baseball, like $1 million isn't enough to live for the rest of your life on. And so like there was a very real chance like that he was never going to hit it big. And now suddenly 4 years later, Muncy has guaranteed himself that he's going to make at least $62 million in his career. He's made $38 million so far. He's got at least another $24 million coming to him. $62 million, you can live on that. Like that is, and so I think Muncy, I think he's a pretty low maintenance guy who kind of looks at it practically and says, you know what, 62 million bucks, even after you factor in California taxes and everything, and cost of living, all that stuff. It's like, okay, if I've got 20 million bucks in the bank when I'm done playing baseball, I'm going to be just fine. And I don't need that to be 27 million instead of 20 million, and I don't need to squeeze out every last dollar that I could get because I have what I need. And so for him, like he said, he values the comfort and the peace of staying where he's comfortable, of being in LA. He loves being a Dodger. He loves, and it's funny that because he is a Texas boy, like McKinney, Texas, where he's from is a lot different than LA, but Muncy's happy where he is. He feels good playing baseball with the Dodgers. And when you've got a good thing and they want to give you 24 million bucks to keep that good thing, like, why not do that?
Yeah. And we talked about a little bit when he signed the deal about being undervalued and maybe him seeing, Kike Hernandez, perfect example of seeing somebody maybe chasing money or maybe Muncy likes first base better than third base. Maybe he doesn't, maybe you never know, but, chasing whatever, playing in a different position or playing every day, whatever the case is. And it doesn't always work out. Grass isn't always greener is the cliche, but it is true. And especially for the Dodgers, like Kike Hernandez was also on foul territory recently, and he was talking about how when he came over midseason, hitting coaches already knew him. They helped him rediscover some of the things in his swing. But he said, like, I spent the last 2 years playing in the last place for a last place team, and you just feel different, playing in a winning team. He's like, great players or whatever it was, basically like being a great player is great and all, but being a great player on a winning team is even better. And it realistically for the Dodgers, they're set up to be a winning team for the future and hopefully continue on into the future as time keeps going.
Yeah, Muncy and the Dodgers are going to go down as having a very special relationship because Muncy has done everything that the team needed, bouncing between positions and everything, and the Dodgers have done right by him. Last year when they signed him to an extension when he was playing terribly, showed that faith in him. I think that Muncy and the Dodgers really, really like each other and feel comfortable, feel like they have each other's best interests at heart. And that is a lot more important than getting those extra $2 million or whatever he could have gotten on the open market.
Yeah. All right. There's been a lot of opt-outs or opt-ins or things of that nature. So probably something we're going to talk about the rest of the week. One of those names is Justin Turner. So, why not talk about it? But that's not for today. Jeff, you got anything else for today?
No. Happy to have you back. And yeah, I put off that Kershaw talk till we could do it together. I didn't feel right doing that solo yesterday. So yeah, big news like that needs both of us.
Yeah. So like I said, there's a lot of players that are now on the open market to talk about. There's, obviously Shohei Ohtani talk. There's, a bunch of rumors and things of that nature that are going to come with him. Yamamoto and those guys from overseas and, a lot of stuff to talk about. And, free agency has begun for everybody. And I don't anticipate seeing too much movement here in the next week or so, but hey, you never know. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Make sure to become an everydayer by listening every day or watching every day or wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers, which is how you can find us on Twitter and Instagram, Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM either of us with any questions, comments, thoughts, or concerns. I believe we still have some questions in there that we'll definitely get to as the days go on. You can always send those also via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, tell your smart device play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.